let's try and give this one a go. Yeah? Welcome back to another episode of the JA Wrestling Show. My name, of course, is Jose Ramos Jr. Trying yet again to go here live on a Thursday, talking about NXT No Mercy, the latest premium live event that will be doing a prediction stream. Initially, we had the stream going there, and of course, me and my infinite wisdom, me as a dum dum, happened to start the stream and then accidentally end the stream. So for those who were with us during that initial stream, thank you for tuning in. Sorry about the mistake there, but we're here live on a Thursday, giving you guys an opportunity to join the stream. Again, my apologies. We had the stream going there for a bit, and of course, wouldn't you know, for some reason, at the press of a button, I accidentally ended that original stream. Tried to restart it, and it says, hey, you got to start a new one right from scratch. So that was fun. That was a great way to start today's stream, especially fresh off of the heels of Monday. The San Fran already says Botchamania, baby. Yeah, it was, dude. Anybody that knows me, outside of this and in real life, you know how much of a perfectionist I can be and how I like to be prepared. I've always believed that failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And yeah, off of Monday's stream, it wasn't the most smooth stream. We had to go to the vertical version of it. And the first thing we do here is we check everything. Everything's looking cool. And for some reason, I pressed the wrong button and we ended that original stream. So I want to give people here an opportunity to join this stream. Hopefully you have your notifications on, that way you're aware when we do go live here on YouTube. Of course, by now you know the schedule, Monday and Thursdays when we go stream. Of course, for those just joining us here, my name is Jose Ramos Jr., ready to talk about NXT's latest premium live event, No Mercy, which will be taking place this upcoming weekend. There's a few matches on the card that we got to discuss, predict, analyze, you know the deal, giving people an opportunity here to join us. Dion, I see you in the chat. I appreciate you tuning in, buddy, for another stream. Of course, Dion, San Fran, both members of the Main Event Mafia, as you can tell with their names being highlighted, and of course having the championships next to their name, demonstrating how long they've been a member of the Main Event Mafia. I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying their day. Hopefully that your week has been going pretty well. Me personally, my week's going fine. Nothing new, nothing crazy. Just been working, of course, as we all have to do. But again, want to give people here an opportunity to join in on the stream before we start talking about it. A few things I do want to address heading into this No Mercy event, though, before we get to the matches. NXT being one of the more consistent events in pro wrestling. They've been consistently highlighting the women's division being one of the best women's divisions in all of pro wrestling. A lot of potential in these stars, whether it's from the men's or the women's division. I feel like the WWE right now is in good hands when it comes to the future. The talent that is currently honing in on their skills down in Florida prove to have a lot of potential and a lot to look forward to in the relatively close future of professional wrestling. Of course, NXT is having their premium live event, No Mercy, this upcoming weekend. It's not the only event that's going to be transpiring this weekend. Tomorrow, Friday evening, will also be TNA's special event, not really a pay-per-view, but a special event, Victory Road. And we'll go through some of those matches as well. I know a lot of people here are interested in the WWE aspect, but of course, at any time you guys want to talk about AEW, TNA, AAA, whatever the case may be, please make sure you go ahead and sound off in the chat, sound off in the comments, in order to have your questions, your comments, and everything in between addressed here on the stream. You guys already know, in order to be a part of the stream, in order to be able to comment down below in the chat, you have to be subscribed. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you don't have access to these streams. And if anything, I want you guys to be a part of the stream. I want you guys to be a part of the discussion. So make sure you go ahead and you subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all things pro wrestling, as well as join in on the discussion that is pro wrestling here in the J area. Dude in the chat says NXT WWE crossover than TNA. I'm telling you right now, the events that we've seen between NXT and TNA has maintained my interest. There was a point here where, I was a fan of TNA, watching it from the late 2000s to a little bit of the early 2010s, and a little bit after that, maybe around 2011, I just started to fall off, and I wasn't really watching the show. I had a relative knowledge of what was going on in TNA, but there was a point in time where it's like I wasn't interested, I wasn't invested. This was also around the time that NXT Black and Gold was really starting to take off as one of the best shows in pro wrestling. In the recent times, when TNA reverted back to total nonstop action rather than Impact, and they got the rebranding, and they got this deal with NXT, it's really rushed all this excitement and all this anticipation for TNA wrestling, plus the name value that they have over there at Total Nonstop Action. So to see the crossover with NXT is really promising, and we're finally kind of pursuing an invasion angle, as we saw this past week on NXT. Obafemi, the reigning and defending NXT champion, faced off against the TNA champion Trick Williams. Winner take all. We talked about this on the last stream, and I said, hey, I don't think we're going to have a definitive winner to this matchup. I feel that we're going to have a little bit of shenanigans, a little interference that will prevent a decisive victor here. And that's exactly what happened. Mike Santana gets in the face of Trick Williams, gives him a good old-fashioned slap to the face, and a breakdown happens. TNA guys and girls come out of the crowd. The NXT locker room is unleashed, and we have this huge brawl to end Tuesday's episode. Solid. I really like an invasion angle, especially when it's something between two different brands or promotions in this case, and I feel like it's really building towards something potentially at Bound for Glory, TNA's WrestleMania, if you will. So I'm looking forward to the build to Bound for Glory. We already have a couple of matches already, in store for that show, but still looking forward to it. What's going on, LJ? I see you in the chat. Thank you, buddy, for being here. Dude says main roster guys having matches with NXT guys at times. I would love to see the main roster really mix it up with the TNA guys per se, but I think what they're doing with TNA and NXT is just fine as well. LJ says TNA and NXT wrestlers went crazy in the ring. It was a great finish to the show. It made sense to not have a winner-take-all finish between Oba and Trick, and I'm glad they went the way they did. Builds up more excitement, builds more anticipation for the inevitable TNA start regaining that world championship there. But that's talking about the episode of TNA. Let's talk about No Mercy. First and foremost, we talked about the women's division, which is at its core the main attraction to NXT. I think they've been able to highlight the women on NXT fantastic. I mean, the tag team division, the mid card, the main event title scene as well. And that's what we're going to see at No Mercy. We're going to see the NXT Women's Champion, JC Jane, defend her title against the number one contender, Lola Vice. Lola Vice, certainly a lot of potential in this young woman. She has great potential. I mean, the charisma is there. The athleticism is there. She's now building up a rapport with the audience. And ever since they aired those vignettes of her background, her family, and why it is that she does this, why she is pursuing professional wrestling, and what is it exactly that she's fighting for, I feel like that increased the level of support from the main audience. When you have a type of babyface like a Lola Vice, and you can demonstrate and illustrate why it is we should be cheering for her, and you give us a reason, it allows the audience to really connect with the story at hand. JC Jane as the NXT champion caught me by surprise when she had beat Stephanie Vaquer, a few months ago. But I think she's done a fine job. When she became champion, I'll be honest, I went on here on stream and I even said it myself that she would be a transitional champion, that she would essentially drop that championship to like a Jordynne Grace. Now that wasn't the case, as Jordynne Grace never won the title yet, of course. And he's handled it pretty well. In fact, she was a double champion, holding the Knockouts Championship for TNA and the NXT Women's Championship simultaneously, and essentially is the top heel on the brand. Now you have her against Lola Vice, who again, the crowd has increasingly become more supportive of. They would like to see her win. Her stuff in AAA, teaming up with like Mr. Iguana, very entertaining. Again, another, level of depth for us to connect with her. I do think that JC Jane has done all she could do with this championship. Fatal Influence has been running roughshod on the NXT Women's Division for the last several months. But now that we've seen that Jasmine Nix no longer with NXT, as you may have known on the NXT episode that just occurred, she was attacked and essentially kicked out of the group. And JC Jane and Fallon Henley will be moving forward without her. But behind the scenes, on social media, of course, it was announced that she would not be renewing her contract with NXT and the WWE. The offer that they had given her wasn't to her liking, and she declined that offer and will not be re-signing with the WWE. Of course, we wish her the best in whatever it is that she chooses to pursue. No harm, no foul. We move forward. I do think that Lola Vice goes over. I think she beats JC Jane definitively. I feel that it is time to have a fresh face at the top of the NXT Women's Division. Nothing wrong with JC Jane, but we haven't seen a lot of championship opportunities for one Lola Vice, and I feel like she could be a main player on the main roster, but let's see how she does with a run with this title. I think that she wins the championship. I think that Fallon Henley then moves forward into a feud with JC Jane. Now that Jasmine's out of the mix, it's down to two of them. And I feel like the natural progression in the story would be Fallon versus JC Jane, and essentially really putting a bow on the story of Fatal Influence. For a long time, these girls in Fatal Influence kind of been butting heads. A little bit of a disagreements, if you will, between them. Maybe jealousy, even. The little comments that would be thrown towards Fallon Henley by a JC Jane or vice versa. It all comes to a head. I would not be surprised if it was at like Halloween Havoc and we have some kind of a stipulation to the matchup. I do think that Lola Vice goes over. I personally think that would be the right call here too. JC Jane has done all she could. Robert, what's going on, says, I have no idea why Lola Vice has not been pushed harder before. She's a legit badass. And again, she has the credentials for it as well. Has a history with, mixed martial arts. That lends that credibility as well. I know the WWE tries to be as credible as they can, even though a lot of people look at it as a form of entertainment. It still is a very athletic sport. I agree with you. I don't know why we haven't really been pushing her as hard. Maybe they didn't think she was ready yet, but in the recent months, especially with the acquisition of AAA, I feel like she's really taken a step in the right direction, and hopefully we're able to capitalize off of that by having her win the championship and demonstrating why it is that she has earned her spot here at the top. I agree with you 100%. Dude, so this is an interesting point here. Not necessarily talking about No Mercy, but it's still kind of NXT adjacent. Dude B says, Vacare is too new, in my opinion, to be pushed heavy. I would disagree with you in that regard. Stephanie Vacare, ever since coming out onto the scene, has proven to be a hot commodity in professional wrestling. AEW at Forbidden Door showcased her in a way against Mercedes Moné that garnered her all this newfound attention and newfound fandom. I will be the one to confess. I wasn't really familiar with Stephanie's game, but after watching Forbidden Door last year, immediately I got it. And I was like, wow, she's fantastic. So the WWE, of course, signs her, gets her on NXT. Originally, she was supposed to be on the main roster, but Stephanie has been publicly, said that she declined. She wanted to be in NXT first to really get acclimated to the style of the WWE and even work on her promo skills. And I admire that about her. She had an opportunity to go straight to the main roster, but she said, you know what? Let me go ahead and figure this out first. Because in order to be a true asset to the company, I want to ensure that I can provide the best quality of wrestling that I can. So she goes to NXT, learns the style, learns the promo style, essentially. You say it's too early for her to be pushed. When would you want her to be pushed? There have been plenty of guys out there, guys and girls, who have been pushed really quick. The first ones that immediately come to mind, again, these are different time, I suppose. I know they're just unique circumstances. Brock Lesnar, immediately pushed. A guy like Kurt Angle, immediately pushed. Just to name a few. I don't think I don't think she's too new at all. She's credible in the ring. The fans are behind her, and it's a fresh face. Who would you rather be the champion right now? Rhea Ripley? No, that doesn't interest me. She's already been the champion for an extensive amount of time. Naomi's is obviously off pregnant. Io Sky, I would love to be the champion, but again, she's just recently been the champion and probably will now start a feud with Asuka if we are to believe what we saw on TV. And aside from them, it's like, who else is really there? Liv Morgan's injured. Kyrie's not going to win it. Roxanne's not going to win it. She's in the Judgment Day. Raquel, same thing. I think Stephanie was the right move. I absolutely think that Stephanie was the right move. If you think that that was a quick push for her, I mean, that's your opinion. Totally valid, but I'm gonna say no. I think it was good. You want to talk about quickness. You want to talk about speed. The Speed Championship will be on the line here at NXT No Mercy, as well as the current champion, Sol Ruca, who's fantastic, by the way. Shout out to Sol Ruca. Will be defending the title against Lainey Reed, who has been known as a part of the Evolve brand, and now on NXT gets an opportunity for the championship. This is interesting. I could see this going one of two ways. Lainey Reed, obviously new, a little bit of inexperience, but still has a lot of fire to her, a little bit of an attitude. I like what I see from her, from the short stuff that we've seen, but I digress. But then I look at the Speed Championship, and I feel that we need to establish its importance, its significance in NXT. We've known it off on X and Twitter, but now it's officially on brand on NXT. I think Reed is going to have opportunities elsewhere. She's going to have an opportunity to excel and grow in NXT. But I got Sol Ruca, who has been one of the most underrated stars on NXT, consistently putting on great performances, competing her heart out. And I think just for her sake and for the title's sake, it would do wonders for both of them if she were to successfully retain here. I don't necessarily think she needs the championship. However, I feel the championship needs her. Add that credibility. How are we going to have this championship defended for the first time on an NXT PLE and have her immediately drop that championship to someone new like a Lainey Reed? No shade. No shade towards Lainey. But I think Sol Ruca goes over decisively. Beats her even before the count of 3 minutes for sure. And you want to talk about decisively. Josh Briggs and Javon Evans have been in a feud for the last few, it feels like months at this point. Talking about, is Javon ready? And Josh Briggs has really been pushing his buttons. I mean, I think Josh Briggs, when he was a part of that tag team between him and Brooks Jensen, I wasn't really into it. I wasn't really invested. But turning him heel, I think, was the best move to have. His tag team with Namora did nothing for me personally. I thought that was a dead-end story for both of them. Breaking them up and having him turn completely heel was the best call for him. He comes off as a threatening heel, certainly someone who's vengeful and thinks that he's owed something in NXT, whereas you have a guy like Javon Evans, who's just growing as a talent, just happy to be there at this point, 21 years of age, still a kid for all we know. And to see the way he has taken to the roster and taken to the competition, Javon Evans, I certainly think, is a future NXT champion. This guy has it. Has the athleticism for sure. Definitely has the connection with the crowd. And has just a unique personality that I feel is akin to like a Jeff Hardy or a Rob Van Dam. He has that cool factor, I think he beats Josh Briggs. I think this is the first step for Javon Evans to win that NXT championship. Does he do it next month? Don't know. Does he do it next year? Don't know. But with that youth that he has, he certainly has the longevity and I think the potential to be something great in the WWE. Javon Evans goes over, beats Josh Briggs, and with all due respect, with Josh Briggs, I don't see him as a big player in WWE. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm more than happy to be wrong. But I just don't see it with Briggs. I think right now is his best work, but I'm talking long run, I don't really see it. Javon Evans goes over. Dudeby says Tessa in WWE. I mean, she's still with TNA. Maybe as a potential invasion angle for sure. She obviously has the pedigree, but she has the controversy too. So I don't know if they want to go. You know what? I can't even say I don't even know if they want to go with the controversy. They brought Brock back. You bring Lesnar back, it's clear they don't care about no controversy. So you might be onto something there. Sir Robert says, speaking of the ladies, and please admit you go no when you see Nia Jax appear. It's not even a matter of going no. I want to like Nia Jax. I think she has vastly improved based off of her previous run in the company. But I will say, right now, her story with Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill for the WWE Women's Championship doesn't do it for me. I mean, Tiffany, to me, she's only fought 3 people. And that's Nia, Charlotte, Jade. I'm a fan of Tiffany, but this title reign has really grown tiresome for me. It just feels like we keep going back in a revolving door with these two, with Nia and Jade. Do I think Nia's terrible? No, I don't. But do I think she's one of the best? No, I don't. She's basically just there for the heat. You know, she's a heat magnet. She plays it well. I'll give her that. But I'm not the biggest fan of her, you know. I can admit though she is doing way better than that first run. Byron says next year's WWE game will have a soundtrack similar to 2K20, and Booker T has already recorded lines for commentary. Is he going to be in the game? I mean, because I know it's typically Byron Saxton, Corey Graves, and Michael Cole. I'm going to confess, I don't know the soundtrack for 2K20. That was a game that we had skipped. We didn't play that one. We went from like 2K19 and didn't get the next 2K until 23. We didn't get 20 or 22. But I'm curious to what it will look like, the new 2K, how the roster of course will evolve, what will be the main showcase, of course, any new amenities added to the game. You better believe we'll be looking forward to that. Another thing that I'm looking forward to here is the weaponized steel cage match. This is how you properly do it, right? Jordynne Grace, coming over from Total Nonstop Action, the Juggernaut, if you will, faces off against the formerly known Mariah May, obviously now known as Blake Monroe, coming from AEW, battling it out inside of a steel cage with weapons involved. These two have been at each other's throats ever since Blake Monroe turned on Jordynne Grace. Now, we knew it was going to transpire sooner or later just because I feel like Monroe is much more suited as a heel. She was cool as a babyface. We could get behind her, but she just plays the bad guy so well. And obviously, you know, in this business, you're not here to make friends. You're here to make money, as one CM Punk said. And for her to betray Jordynne Grace was a good business move for her. Now, granted, I don't think anybody wants to be in a fight with Jordynne Grace, but in terms of a business move, Blake Monroe is the future. I look forward to what she can do on the main roster, especially when they allow her certain, you know, liberties and freedoms when it comes to her character. But this is how you do it. Jordynne Grace, who's going to be a world champion regardless. Blake Monroe, who I very much can see as a world champion like tomorrow even. Especially in NXT. They're going to be inside of a steel cage. What do we do from here? Because we saw Jordynne Grace and Blake Monroe already do battle. We saw the aftermath as we saw Blake Monroe have this moment of, I don't want to say clarity, but it kind of came to her that she now had to embrace this darker side of her character. We saw the shots in red, embracing a darker side of Blake Monroe. I don't think you go through that type of a transformation just to lose. I think Blake Monroe gets the win over Jordynne Grace. One, because they need more credible heels on NXT when it comes to the women's division, I think. And two, I think Jordynne Grace will be just fine if she takes this L to Blake Monroe. Perhaps they have a rematch, maybe. But I'm gonna go with Blake Monroe to take the victory inside of a weaponized steel cage match. We have the North American Championship on the line as Ethan Page goes up against Tavion Heights. Not particularly crazy about this matchup. Nothing against either guy. I like Ethan Page. But it's because I feel like the result is going to be Ethan Page winning. I don't see Tavion winning. Especially after the way NXT had finished with Tavion's segment. Him holding up the championship and kind of celebrating that moment. To me, that's a red herring. That's to get the people thinking that one thing's going to happen when in fact the opposite occurs. I think Ethan Page goes over. Plus they changed the strap and I don't feel like that's going to be a relatively quick change. I think they're going to want to milk that a little bit. So I got Ethan Page beating Tavion Heights. Sir Robert says, the most ridiculous thing ever happened recently. Orange Cassidy is back, hands in his pockets, fighting opponents. Please preach, this hurts professional wrestling. Professional wrestling, though, is at its core silly. I mean, think about it. You're talking to someone here who is a diehard professional wrestling fan. I've been watching it for 25 years now. And I can become self-aware enough to where I recognize that it can be silly. I mean, for crying out loud, you got men and women, barely, half naked essentially, oiled up, fighting in a ring under the lights in front of thousands of people, millions around the world for our entertainment. God forbid we have someone like Orange Cassidy cause a little bit of a comedy spot. I think you can't take it too serious. Now, Orange Cassidy as a world champion, that's an argument for another day. Because you do have room for these comedy characters. There are plenty of comedy characters in pro wrestling. You could even argue, at this point, a guy like Joe Hendry is a comedy character. The way he's been, popping up in all these different segments on NXT. I'm a fan of Orange Cassidy. I kind of like his style. Again, him winning the world championship is an argument for another day. But I do think there's room for that type of wrestling. Robert says, would Bret Hart get in the ring with Orange Cassidy? Well, no, Bret Hart would not get in the ring with him. Because we know what type of wrestler Bret Hart would be. That would be... Let me try to think of an example here. Because we've had characters who have a comedic sense to them. Let's talk about this. A lot of people, myself included, like Santino Marella. I think Santino is one of the most entertaining stars the WWE had during that time period. To this day still. Do you think a guy like Santino Marella, and again, I'm not saying as an athlete, because we know he has that background, with mixed martial arts. I'm talking full-on gimmick. Would Santino Marella be a credible opponent against The Undertaker? No. Absolutely not. But that's why you don't book the match. You don't book that match. Those are two separate entities that should be kept far apart. Pro wrestling is not supposed to be taken so serious. Now, it's beautiful when it is, and done correctly. But of course, there are those gimmicks and stories that are going to be a little out there. I think Brock is Cena's last match, aka he wins this time. Trevor, first of all, thank you for joining us on the stream. I appreciate the comment, buddy. I don't think he is. What's up, Reese? How you doing, my friend? I don't think he is because one, the reports are saying it's not going to happen. And of course, when it comes to the reports, you take it with a grain of salt, right? It's not 100% fact. It's just reading the tea leaves. It's just making sure we're covering everything. We're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and making sure we cover all bases. But also, I don't think Cena wins his last match. I think he does the time-honored tradition and goes on his back and pushes the next generation. At least that's the way I think it should be. I think he should probably lose to somebody like a Braun Breaker, putting over the next generation. But But do they have a rematch? I don't think so. I mean, he has like what 6 appearances left. We got to be very strategic with these appearances, guys. There's rumors Dominic Mysterio could be a possibility. I'm into that. AJ obviously at Crown Jewel, super into that. Trevor says Santino beat Umaga for the IC title, so he could go in against the Undertaker. I'm gonna have to put up an argument there, Trevor. If you recall, back in 2007 when Santino Marella won the Intercontinental Championship, that was on account of interference by one Bob Lashley, right? Bobby Lashley kind of got involved and prevented Umaga from winning that matchup and helping Santino win the IC title. So I get where you're going with that. But again, if we're going one-on-one, mano-a-mano here, Santino's not beating Umaga straight up without a little bit of help. So, and plus, nothing against Eddie Fatu, the late Umaga. Not on the same page as The Undertaker. The Undertaker is one of the all-time greats. Odds are your favorite wrestler loves The Undertaker. Everybody loves The Undertaker. He's put on another pedestal. There's the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, and then there's whatever mountain we put The Undertaker on. One of the most respected, revered wrestlers on the planet. I know it was just an analogy. Robert got something cooking here. Robert says, now that Brock is back, imagine, and we'll wait. While we wait there, we do have one more matchup here to talk about for the NXT No Mercy predictions. The NXT World Championship. The ruler of NXT, Obafemi, versus Ricky Saints, formerly known as Ricky Starks, of course. This one's the toughest one to call. Because I really want to see Ricky win, man. I'm a big fan of Ricky. Has the charisma, has the look. He's exactly what a world champion to me could be. But when you have him up against Obafemi, it's very difficult. Very difficult because I look at Obafemi and I'm like, this guy is a monster. He's a beast. He's an attraction. If this was in the 80s, I mean, Obafemi would be treated like a god. I look at Obafemi and I'm like, when is this guy going to go to the main roster? Because he has all the makings of a future world champion. But the fact is, Obafemi can't go to the main roster without losing the NXT championship. So when does he do it well? Hear me out. TNA is obviously embroiled in a feud with NXT. Looks like we're going to have a full-on invasion angle. I'm thinking somebody's going to get involved. And they're going to cost Oba the title. Ricky wins the championship. Ricky's already won the North American title. He needs the world championship. And I don't think we're going to have to wait that long. Ricky Saints goes over and beats Oba on account of some sort of interference from a TNA star or maybe even Trick Williams, who's the TNA world champion. I do think that's going to happen. So just to go through all of them, I do think that Lola Vice wins the women's title. Sol Ruka successfully retains the Speed Championship. Javon Evans, that boy Bouncy, beats Josh Briggs. Ethan Page defeats Tavion Heights to retain that North American title. Blake Monroe escapes the weaponized steel cage match as the winner. And we crown a new NXT champion. Absolute Ricky Saints defeats Obafemi. Let me know in the comments down below and in the chat what you guys think about NXT. Think about my predictions. If you agree, if you disagree, sound off in the comments in the chat below. Of course, you can't be a part of the stream or the chat without being a subscriber. So make sure you go ahead and press subscribe and join the J area. Now, I will be looking here at the chat here. I see that we got Robert. Says, now that Brock is back, imagine Brock versus Gunther. Brock versus Braun Breaker. Brock versus Jacob Fatu. Trevor says, really love the first two. Not sure about the Jacob one. What's up, Will? Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for being here, Will. What do you think about NXT No Mercy? Sound off in the chat. Thank you so much for the support, buddy, for being here. Means the absolute world. I agree with Trevor here. I've said publicly on the streams here that I'm done with Brock. I don't need to see Brock anymore. Now, the only matches that I would care for are, yes, against Gunther and Braun Breaker. I think those are two stellar matches that could be pulled off if done right. Jacob Fatu, I'm intrigued. I would not be against that. But I feel like Gunther, excuse me, I feel like Brock should put over all three of these guys. At least Gunther and Braun Breaker. But the question is, would he? I don't know if he would. All three of them is pretty tough. Trevor says Jacob one gives me that Dean versus Brock deal. That one was such a shame at WrestleMania 32. They really had a chance to steal the show at that event back in 2016, and it was very underwhelming, even with the no holds barred aspect to it. I think if done right, all three of those matches could deliver. I would love to see Jacob versus Brock. I do think it'd be a short ordeal. That matchup will not be going past 10 minutes. I would be very surprised if it did. A lot of selling, would be needed, but maybe a lot of no selling now that I think about it. Brock isn't going to sell. Jacob Fatu is notorious for not selling, and he just gets back up and does that little Samoan shake that he does. Will says, I think that NXT No Mercy is going to be better than WrestlePalooza. Will, that's a very interesting take here. Traditionally, I think the NXT PLEs are very they safe. I think they're very pedestrian in that they don't really take a lot of risks. But with WrestlePalooza, I've said that the two matches that really stood out for me were the Women's Championship that saw Stephanie win the world title, and the mixed tag match I had a lot of fun with as well. Aside from that, you can kind of skip WrestlePalooza. I look at NXT No Mercy and the matches that I'm really looking forward to here. Obviously, Obafemi and Ricky Saints, the steel cage match, very much interested. And then maybe the women's title. Those three. As for the other three, I'm kind of iffy on, but of course that's just the selling point of getting me into the building. When we look at the actual finished product, it says we reconnected, but I'm going to watch the playback here and see if it... I see you guys' comments in the chat. Thank you for the updates and keeping us honest here on stream. Let me know if it's improved at all. The Wi-Fi has been kind of laggy. Stream's not working. Thank you, Tyler. Either battery died or internet. It's the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is kind of wonky right now. Let me know in the chat if it's okay. Trevor says we're back. Cool. Temporarily disconnected there, but luckily, hey, we're back. And I'm looking at the playback here. Connection seems to be a little bit better. Robert says all good. Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate the feedback, and thank you for sticking with us here. Kind of a little bit of a rough patch here when it comes to today's stream, but we're still rocking and rolling. We were talking about NXT and WrestlePalooza. Is it going to be a better show? I think it has all the makings for it. It's a shame when you have something like WrestlePalooza and you have main stars like Drew, Cody, Punk, Rollins, etc., John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and you're still putting up a show that is being graded a C by ESPN, who is the actual partner in it all. Like, that's a bad look, man. And I'm hoping that it holds them accountable. And it demonstrates, like, hey, you guys got to step up your game. Tyler here says, any thoughts on Victory Road tomorrow night? A perfect segue. We were just going to start talking about the card. Thank you, Tyler. When it comes to Victory Road, I'm interested. It's a special event for TNA, a classic pay-per-view name. Naturally gets me a little invested in it. We know on the card we're going to have the X Division Championship on the line as Leon Slater takes on Myron Reed. I'm looking forward to that. The X Division, one of the best parts of TNA, and I'm a big fan of Leon Slater ever since he won the championship at Slammiversary against Moose. Love the kid. I mean, sky's the limit. It's weird for me to say love the kid, but it's like I am technically older than him, right? Mike Santana goes up against Ridge Holland, which truthfully I'm not really as invested in because it's Mike Santana, but then you look at who he's facing in Ridge Holland. I think that one's a pretty clear cut who's going to win, and that's Mike Santana. I do think that Leon Slater will be retaining the championship. I forgot to mention that. Moose versus Ali. I mean, the Battle of Order 4 versus the System. I like it. Mustafa Ali, I think one of the best wrestlers TNA has on the roster. Moose, who is a force to be reckoned with. He's a former X Division champion. He's a former TNA champion. What we got here?
Hey everyone, sorry to crash the party. I'm gonna borrow him for 1 second. So yeah, man. Where'd you put your hemorrhoid pills at?
That's crazy.
No, I'm just fine. Just fine.
No, it should be for reference here. I told him he didn't have to mute the mic.
Yeah, I
I
lost the TV remote and I can't find it, guys.
The TV remote should be on the couch.
Okay, I'll look again.
Like under
Yeah,
the cushions, maybe.
maybe.
It's on the couch. That's where I left it.
My day in a nutshell. Road Glasgow, Crimea River.
Jack Perry.
Yes.
It should be on one of the couches though.
Okay.
If not, check the TV stands. The good luck. A little cameo there by San Fran. They're currently looking for the TV remote. I told them I left it on the sofa. So hopefully they're able to find it. If not, I mean, I'm going to have to go hunting pretty soon for the remote. Let's see. Victory Road. We also have the International Championship as Macklin versus Kazarian. Joe Hendry versus Eric Young. Tyra in the chat says NXT Halloween Havoc 2025 is coming to Arizona. That's right. That is true. San Fran has found the remote. Fantastic. Where was it? Let me know where it was. Raw's also coming to Arizona in December. That is correct. I think it's December 1st they're coming to town. Robert says Karrion Kross and the Righteous are going to show up at one of these pay-per-views. I just don't know. We knew that the Righteous, there was a level of intrigue by the WWE to sign them. Obviously, Karrion Kross, that story has kind of fizzled out in the headlines of the news. He has been making appearances on the Indies, namely GCW. Will he ever come back? I think so. I don't think Karrion Kross's story in the WWE is already finished. I think eventually we'll see him back again. You know, he's already had 2 runs with the company. I think the second one maybe a little bit more successful than the first, especially when it comes to the main roster. His NXT run, I think, is still his best run in the WWE. Will he make an appearance with the Righteous? You know what? I'm going to wait till I see it. But I like Kross. I'm a fan of his and Scarlett's. I hope they do wonderful things on the Indies and maybe find themselves back onto the main roster. Trevor says, thoughts on Andrade? Seems like Del Rio light, a.k.a. problems, but not as bad as. You know, I will 1010% take Andrade versus Del Rio. I was never really a Del Rio guy. I never even liked his gimmick because to me it was very derivative of like the $1 Million Man and the JBL story. The only difference was he was from Mexico. Never really a big Del Rio fan, and then coming off of the personal issues of his, made it even more difficult to become a fan. I think Andrade, in terms of his athleticism and his in-ring ability, much better. I'm much more of an Andrade fan than him. And it's just a real shame that they could not utilize Andrade at his full potential. They even had him in a tag team with Rey Fenix, contending for the tag titles, which I thought was a real benefit for both individuals. Otherwise, there was that chance that they would just get lost in the shuffle, as everybody seems to do here and there. And then ultimately, leading to his release, it's like, what are we doing? He was with the WWE initially, got released, went to AEW, didn't really do anything there, got released, went back to the WWE, had a couple of good showings against Carmelo Hayes and obviously teaming up with Phoenix, gets released. Is he one of the most talented individuals to not have a successful run? It's ridiculous. Wish him the best, and I'm curious to where he goes next. Might as well go to TNA. I don't know if he I don't know if he burnt a bridge with AEW, but if he were to go back to AEW, would he be the first guy to go WWE, AEW, WWE, AEW? I don't think anybody's done that. Tyler says it's my first time watching TNA's weekly show since a long time ago. Today. Um, I mean it's good. You know what? I'm not gonna say it's like the best it's been, but it's pretty consistent. To me, it's very reminiscent to like NXT. I feel like NXT and TNA, their style of shows. Obviously, they're going up against each other, so it's that cohesiveness, but it's quality. Plus, I mean, you got notable stars like the Hardys, Joe Hendry, Nick Nemeth, Moose. These are names that a lot of wrestling fans are familiar with, so it's all about giving it a shot. Tyler says Andrade's going to show up in Hog Wrestling, also known as House of Glory. Maybe. I mean, it's really, the possibilities are endless with Andrade. Maybe he just takes a break. Who knows? Maybe he just takes a little bit of a break. I do, of course, want to plug the socials. You can follow us at JAreaPod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That's at JAreaPod_. For our members of the Main Event Mafia, our members of the channel here, you got a little bit of a surprise of what's in store for next month's video. I'm not going to spoil it. If you're a member of the Main Event Mafia, you probably saw the post, and it's one hint, it's Dark Side. It's Dark Side. So we'll have Dark Side coming up next month at some point. We're going to be trying something new with Dark Side, though. Typically, we have it as a live stream. I want to try something different and produce maybe a one-off video kind of chronicling and highlighting the career of said individual. Again, I won't spoil who it is. And then maybe having a stream after it to where we can all kind of catch up on it or whatever. But just know that Dark Side is returning next month as a 1-month special. So looking forward to this one, though. Something different. Kevin says, what's your favorite NXT moment? Oh, man, Kevin, that's a great question. Or great question. It's the first one that really comes to mind is Johnny Gargano winning the NXT Championship. Just because I got to watch Johnny Gargano in the Cruiserweight Classic and team up with Tommaso Ciampa, see DIY contend for the titles. Then we saw the betrayal of Ciampa onto Johnny Gargano, and then we got to see Johnny Gargano challenge Andrade for the NXT Championship in an awesome matchup. And then the feud with the Undisputed Era and Adam Cole that eventually led to him winning the championship. And it really felt so cathartic, and it was just a great moment to see Gargano win that title. And for a long time, he was the heart of NXT. I think you could argue Sami Zayn was also the heart, but you know what? I'm going to go with Johnny Gargano winning the NXT title. Trevor says, dumb question, but as a Niners fan, what's the atmosphere on the other Cali-based teams? It's a rivalry. You know what I mean? It's very similar to like how I would expect the Yankees and the Mets, right? Those guys are both New York teams, but they're gonna clash. So, I think as a Niner fan, I can tell you, no love lost between the Rams and the Raiders, who are now a Vegas team. The Chargers. The Chargers have always been kind of irrelevant to the Niners. I will say we did beat them in the Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl 29. Score was 49-26. Steve Young was the MVP. Actually, now that you mention it, 90 right there. Come on now. It's a rivalry thing, man. I can't stand the Rams because they're LA. The Raiders have always been, trying to beat us in the Bay Area to the point where they left the Bay Area and we kept it. And then the Chargers, like I said, really aren't really a historic rival of ours, but not a dumb question at all, man. I appreciate it. Whenever you talk about the Niners, you immediately have my attention. I mean, aside from pro wrestling, you can see on the wall, I got my Jerry Rice jersey up there. Got a couple of frames of Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, um, clearly repping them always. So I appreciate the question, man. Kevin says just now finding EC3 was on NXT. That's right. Yes, Derek Bateman. Derek Bateman was on there. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he win that season of NXT? I believe. Redemption, was it? NXT Redemption? Yeah, he was on NXT. Kevin says I just followed your IP. You know what's crazy, Kevin? I did see someone follow. I got the notification on my phone down here, so appreciate the follow, buddy. Thank you for continuing to support the channel and continuing to support this venture. It would not be possible, and it certainly wouldn't be as fun if it weren't for people like you, Kevin. So I appreciate you, buddy. Robert says, lastly, maybe I'm old school. It's all good. And I've probably said before, I hate in both AEW, WWE, two opponents that hate each other in the ring, talking to each other. They would fight if real, not chat. I hate it. I suppose it depends on the circumstance. I do get what you're saying, though. Whenever it's like two heated rivals and they're in the ring, it's like, I'm with you. You definitely want to knock the smug smile off their face, probably. That's why I think a lot of times when they implement this caveat to where it's like no physicality, right? You've seen times where like a general manager or anyone in a position of power says no physicality before the matchup, otherwise the match is off, maybe a fine, a suspension. When you have that type of a caveat, it makes sense to me. But if they're casually in the ring talking, I'll give you that. Like the whole Rollins and Punks thing lately, they're in the ring talking, sure. But again, suspend your disbelief, right? That's funny. I didn't even see Trevor's comment until now. Trevor says, yeah, Robert, can you imagine seeing Punk and Rollins eating lunch together when feuding right now? Kayfabe, brother. Kayfabe. Come on now. We got to keep it alive. Kevin says, what's your favorite WWE meme? In ring or out of the ring stuff? I love that gif of The Undertaker behind AJ Styles. That's a great one. WrestleMania 36, the Boneyard matchup. That's a great pick there. Um, oh, that's a good one. In ring or out of the ring? There's so many. And it's like I want to pick one that really resonates because that's a good one. The Taker with AJ is a really good one. You have to give me a second on that. Dethroned by Eli says, do you think Edge will return to face Cena? I wish, but no. I don't think so. One, I don't think there's enough dates left. I feel that if they wanted to squeeze it in, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think Edge comes back to WWE. I mean, for this run. Maybe eventually he comes back, but not for the Cena run. I think that ship has sailed. Tyler says AJ Styles has announced that he will retire sometime in 2026. I did see this, yes. He didn't see himself going past 50. And people just interpreted that as like, wow, we got 2 years of AJ Styles because he doesn't turn 50 for a while. But it's like, that doesn't guarantee he's going to make it to 50. He just doesn't want to get past it. He does retire in 2026, which obviously is what he said. Man, we got to enjoy Styles while we can. The phenomenal one of the greatest of all time. Certainly one of the greatest of this generation, maybe of all generations. Hopefully they could do something with this run. This last couple of years with AJ, I just feel like they haven't done anything. What was the last memorable thing AJ really did? Come to think of it, hasn't held the WWE title or a world title, for that matter, since what, 2019? Tyler says maybe he should go back to TNA. Maybe as a one-off. I wouldn't be mad at that. But I think he finishes in WWE. In that same interview, Tyler, he does say that he wouldn't mind working for the WWE post in-ring career and help develop the young guys, which I think he would be phenomenal at. I'm still thinking about Kevin's question, though. Kevin asked, Favorite wrestling meme, in ring or out of the ring? Kevin loves the Undertaker behind the AJ Styles. I might have to look. Hold on, I want to look up a few memes because I know there's gonna end up being one that's gonna pop up. You know what's one of my favorite? Actually, it didn't pop up, but there's the meme. If you guys remember, I think it was 2017. It was the lead up to. I think it was the lead up to Survivor Series, or I don't know. But Kurt Angle is in the ring with Triple H, and they're having a conversation. And in the middle of the conversation, Kurt Angle is like looking up, and then Triple H is like gonna punch him straight in the face. And it's just something about that Kurt Angle face that gets me every time. Hopefully, I have it here. Hopefully, the camera can pick it up. All right, I'm gonna try to pick it up. You can't really see. It's not the best, but if you've seen it before, you know what I'm talking about. Kevin says, "Man, I hate that I got into AJ Styles late. If it wasn't for him coming to the WWE, I would have never tuned into his work. It's unfortunate but true for me. But thankfully, Kevin, thankfully because of YouTube and TNA Plus and the WWE, I would have said network, but it's not really the network anymore. You can go back still. You can go back and rewatch his stuff and still enjoy it. I highly suggest that you do that. You would not be disappointed. AJ Styles, he's timeless. You know, his stuff translates across generations. So Robert says, man, they have mishandled AJ Styles his entire career. I wouldn't say entire career. I will say as of late for sure. But like from 2016 to 2020, it was decent. I mean, he was in the title picture. He was having quality matches against his opponents. It wasn't until maybe out of the pandemic we started seeing him more in the mid card. And that's to me where we started to get him lost in the shuffle. Tyler says, imagine if Cena shows up in TNA in Boston. I just don't think, I mean, no connection to TNA. Okay, hear me out. The only way this works, we know that Joe Hendry wants a match with Cena. That might be the place to do it. TNA, Boston, that might be the place to do it. What's up, Mohammed? Happy Thursday, buddy. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Dethroned by Ellie says, am I the only one who thinks Ray should have kept the baggy pants? You're not the only one. I like the baggy pants look. I just thought that and the combination of the mask, rather than having that style where it's open in the back, I love the mask from like 2002 to 2005. Like those masks specifically. That was the best look. So you're not the only one. Oh, the Undertaker fan. WrestleMania 30, that's a good one. I'm still going to go with my Kurt Angle one. I think Kurt Angle is one of the most funniest people ever. Kevin also says, I had a TNA video game on the PS3. I remember Samoa Joe, Booker T, Christian, Kurt Angle, Sting in the game. All legends, man. All former champions. A stellar game, I will say. We had rented that on Blockbuster, I remember. They really should try to make another one. And if not, there is a possibility with WWE, I suppose, to get some rights to the characters and bring them on a 2K. I mean, Abyss is there, so. Man, we're losing our legends. Soon Ray and AJ will retire. I know, man. But that's why you got to enjoy them while you can. You know, appreciate them and watch them and support. Kevin says, yo, Jose, have you seen The Rock's weight cut? Yes. Yes, it's insane. He's looking more and more like the 2002 Rock. Very slim, you know. I think it's very apparent he's going to take more serious roles in Hollywood, more dramatic roles. And maybe instead of being like this hulking figure that's typically found in action movies, he wants to be more of a common build, I suppose, an athletic build still, but not like a hulking figure. So curious to see what is his next role in Hollywood. Tyler brings up a point that Jurassic Express is back. I love it. What a great moment at the pay per view All Out. Hearing the music back on, Tarzan Boy, seeing Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy Jack Perry back together, that's great. They're going to be teaming up. They're going to be returning on next Dynamite, the anniversary show, of course, and I'm excited. Really looking forward to Jurassic Express. I think they're exactly what the tag team division needs, and they tried the heel turn with Luchasaurus and Jack Perry. Ultimately, didn't work in the long run. So why not go back to what worked, and that was Jurassic Express. Bree says, "Have you seen Stephen A's top five, dude? What ridiculous, right?" And he had me going. Number 5, LOD, solid. Number 4, I believe, was The Rock, solid. Number 3, Hulk Hogan, valid. Number 2, Ric Flair, valid. And then Bill Goldberg at 1. He's trolling. He's trolling, chat. I mean, come on. He's a grade A instigator, man. Dethroned by Eli says, "What's a match you would have loved to have seen, but never happened?" That's easy. Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels. Those two were my favorites growing up, as a kid. CM Punk is number 2 for me because it goes Shawn, Punk, Eddie. But this was a time where I wasn't watching Punk in Ring of Honor. This was like 2005, 2004. And Shawn and Eddie, to me, were just everything that I loved of wrestling. These guys could make you angry, could make you happy, could make you cry, could get you invested in a promo. To me, they were the best at their craft. And their stories really parallel one another. And I would have loved to have seen Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels. But unfortunately, due to Eddie's passing, which it will be 20 years this year since his passing, which is it's just ridiculous. I can remember where I was when I found out. I was 7 years old when Eddie passed away, and it still hit me. It hit me hard as a kid because this was a guy that I watched every week and cheered and booed, and he was a big proponent as to why I fell in love with wrestling, and especially of him having, ties to Mexico and that heritage, the culture, and it just you felt connected. I felt represented by guys like Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. So when his passing occurred, it hit me hard. It still does hit me hard because again, I think of pro wrestling and I think of being a kid, and Eddie Guerrero was a very big proponent of that. So I would have loved to have seen Shawn and Eddie, two of my all-time favorites. Kevin Asbatista mentioned that it's hard for big muscular guys to break into Hollywood, explaining why most of them lose weight to make certain roles. Absolutely. I mean, the only guy that really got away with it, I think, was Arnold. He was playing kindergarten cop, and Junior, for God's sakes, he was in the movie Twins, and still kept his muscular build. But yeah, it might be a little bit difficult for these muscular guys to have certain roles in Hollywood. Muhammad says, any reason why Adam Copeland is leaving AEW? I read somewhere that it's because he's going to filming the new season of Percy Jackson. Obviously, we know that he's on the show as Ares, the god of war, so probably taking some time off to film that season. Robert says, didn't Jack Perry attack Tony Khan and nothing was ever said about it? Tony Khan's booking. Now, we should not. Remember, he did attack Tony Khan. But it's because they also did that Young Bucks and Tony Khan attack with Jack Perry, and they dropped it. They dropped it like a bad habit. And that's one thing I don't like is inconsistency. I would like to have a little cohesiveness when it comes to the stories. But you're not wrong. That did happen. Tyler says that GCW comes to Maine for the first time on Saturday. Kevin says, Jose, did you see that episode on Vice where Vince McMahon paid the cops off to get... Yes, the Jimmy Snuka and the... her last name's going to kill me, but Nancy, right? Why am I thinking it's not Nancy anymore? I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, it's going to bother me. And I don't want to disrespect her like that. I got to look it up. But yeah, that apparently he had paid off the cops. It's a very strong possibility. Jimmy Snuka was a big star in the WWE. It was Nancy. I was right. Um, I wouldn't put it past him. Kevin says, "Do you remember that one episode of SmackDown where it was Eddie versus JBL? Eddie collapses in the rings. Was that real? It was a very surreal moment. That was kayfabe. You know, that was a part of the show. Otherwise, they wouldn't have showed it. Whenever something serious like that occurs, immediately they're gonna edit it out. They're gonna certain camera angles. They're not gonna show it. The best way I've ever learned what's kayfabe and what's not is how are they shooting it in terms of camera work. If we're focusing in, if we're changing camera angles and we're really trying to capture that reaction, odds are that's supposed to happen. That's a part of the show. But if it becomes uncomfortable and we see the camera change angles, or maybe we're focused on the crowd, then you know it's something that's not supposed to occur. That happens in 2004, and it was following the Judgment Day pay per view where Eddie Guerrero lost an excessive amount of blood. This was supposed to be a follow up on that, and damn it, San Fran got me. San Fran says, "Jose, your headset disconnected from the mic. Stop doing that. I can see my mic is working." That was supposed to play off of the blood that was lost at Judgment Day. WWE does a good job blurring the lines. When they really try. When they really try, they do an exceptional job. Look no further than the Seth Rollins stuff at SummerSlam. People thought he was legitimately injured. I thought he was legitimately injured. But they were able to blur the lines and really surprise us with that cash in. Kevin says apparently the screw job was kayfabe. That's a wrestling conspiracy, buddy. That's a topic for another day. But I don't think the screw job was I don't think it was kayfabe. I think that was legit. Just a happy coincidence that they happened to be filming Wrestling with Shadows with Bret Hart. But I don't think that was I don't think it was kayfabe. How crazy would that have been? You know how like very intricate of a plan you'd have to pull that off? Almost dropped my phone. The next time we'll be going live, guys, will be following NXT No Mercy. We'll see if anything huge happens on the show. I mean, obviously, we know that NXT and TNA are in the midst of a rivalry here, so maybe some sort of interference. I did predict Femi loses the title on account of interference, so keep on the lookout. Saturday, we'll go live. Then on Monday, following Raw, we'll go live. And then next Thursday, we'll go live. Next Thursday will be an early start time, though. Traditionally on the West Coast, we go 8 o'clock. Next week, 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon. 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon on the West Coast. We'll have the link ready on YouTube. That way you can see, based off of your time zone, when it will start on your neck of the woods. But we're going to have an early start time next Thursday's stream. Tyler says, I need watch something, any TNA pay-per-view recommendations. Immediately that comes to mind, Unbreakable 2005. Raven competes for the World Championship. There's the Unbreakable triple threat match between Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. I would recommend, aside from that, I mean, you could really go with a lot. Lockdown, 2006, you can go there. Genesis 2006 as well. I will say, Tyler, anything from TNA, anything from 2005 to 2008, I don't think it can go wrong from those years. Can go wrong. As of recent years, though, I mean, I would probably have to go with like Bound for Glory of 2024. I think Hard to Kill 2024. Freaking San Fran. Watch Sting versus Jeff Hardy on Victory Road. Yeah, watch Sting and Jeff Hardy Victory Road 2011. Kevin, so NXT has their own pay-per-views. Does NXT ever appear on the main pay-per-views with the main roster? No, so they have their own separate brand, Kevin. They're basically developmental. It's a separate thing, And I think it's smart to keep it separate at this point. Have it be its own thing. Have it be its own flavor. But they do have their own pay-per-views. Those will be exclusively on Peacock, though, not to be confused with the new ESPN deal. The ESPN deal will only have the main roster events. The NXT PLEs will remain on Peacock, unless if you are, outside of North America. I believe everything's on Netflix. But being that I'm in North America, I have to have multiple multiple streaming services. Imagine that. I have ESPN for the WWE. I have YouTube TV for the weekly shows. I have Netflix for Raw, Peacock for the NXT PLEs, not to mention TNA Plus and HBO Max for AEW. That's why I can't quit my job yet, guys. I got to pay the bills to be watching these shows. But hopefully one day, the day it happens, I'm going to tell you right now. I'll end on this note. The day I'm able to say to my job, hey, I quit, because I'll be doing this full time, that is going to be a dream. That'll be the day. To be able to quit my day job and just be like, hey, you know what? We're going to do pro wrestling full time. That's the dream. Maybe one day, right? Manifestation, speak into existence, keep grinding and never stop. And the one thing I learned from my parents, never settle. So with that being said, I'll leave you guys with that. I appreciate the constant support and always tuning in for these live streams. You guys can follow me at jareapod_ on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That's, once again, for the people in the back, that's at jareapod_ on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you guys enjoyed this stream, make sure you give it a like. Comment down below some of your predictions for No Mercy and for Victory Road. And don't forget to subscribe in order to stay a part of the chat and stay a part of the J area. If ever so you want to become a member of the Main Event Mafia, please continue to do so, as that really helps out the channel and this pursuit of continuing to grow. You have access to exclusive items like posts, polls, and videos. So I appreciate that very much. I see Sanfran, and we're going to close off with that. Together we stand, divided we fall. Once again, everybody have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend. I'll see you Saturday evening after NXT and No Mercy. And then following that, we'll be on Monday, following Monday Night Raw. All love, all support. Stay cool. Stay safe. I'll see you guys then.